Gosh, so funny.
Hey guys. So we're just gonna get started. So first of all, I just wanted to say warm welcome to Robyn Larsen, and thank you very much for coming. We're very excited to have you here.
Whoa. I got a whoop whoop.
All right. So just a few things. Just want to say thank you to you guys. We've now grown to almost 1,500 members, which is a huge Toronto Tech meetup group, and it's all because of people like you that come and show up, and we're very happy to have you. And lastly but not least, if you guys want to come and check out the meetup group or our Achievers website, you can come and get these slides and videos, which will be hosted there. So it's meetup.com/achieverstech and achievers.com/tech. So everything will be there, and we're more than happy to have you. So I'd like to have Robyn come on up.
Thank you.
Actually, you don't need that.
I don't need that part. Yeah. Hi, guys. So my name is Robyn. Scott, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this because this is a very near and dear story to my heart. So my name is Robyn. I am from the West, which is awesome. This picture is from Revelstoke. It is my favorite mountain to snowboard on, and it just gives me goosebumps and makes me feel really great. If you want the slide deck, you can go to the bit.ly link, but apparently they're recording it, so you won't really need that either. So today I am a front-end developer. It's one of the best things that I've ever done for my life and for my career. I really wanted to get to know who's in the room and kind of create a two-way dialogue. I can stand up here on my soapbox and talk about myself, but I really want to know a little bit about who you guys are. So are there any developers in the room? There's a lot. Of course, there's a lot. This is a tech meetup. What's wrong with you? Designers? There's a couple designers. Are there any engineering students? Oh, amazing. Where are you guys going? Are you at Queens? Are you Waterloo? Nowhere? Okay, awesome. So, who else? Is everybody in the tech industry here mostly? Yes? Okay, awesome, peanuts, except for the Movember girl in the front. So imagine, how many of you are incredibly energized by the work that you do every single day? Or like 90% of the time? It makes you feel really good? Kind of? How many of you are kind of like, I don't know, like a 6 to a 7 level? How many of you are less than a 5? You guys like hate your lives. Okay, this is cool. So you guys can totally relate to where I was when I started this out. So now, imagine waking up every single day and feeling insanely energized about the work that you're doing and just feeling on cloud 9 the majority of the time, and you get to help people, and it's just, it gives you these crazy warm fuzzy feelings, and I can't even articulate how coding makes me feel now because of the way that it used to be. And so in the beginning, it was never really like that for me. I actually really hated my life, but coding makes me feel like this. I feel like I just won the career lottery with coding, but I started out like this in engineering, and it's nobody ever talks about all of the hard parts that you have to go through in order to become something great. And for those that are really fortunate to get to that point right away, I'm incredibly envious of you because it sucked. Life really sucked, and I wanted to crush cans. And so one of the things that nobody ever talks about with like the success of Twitter or the success of Google is the 15 hard-ass years that they had to put in first before getting to that point. Nobody ever talks about all the hard parts in between there. And so I really wanted to talk to you today about the beginnings and the failures that came along with that before I get to live my dream every day by coding, and it is unbelievable. I get to use this very creative medium called code to create insane web experiences for anybody. It's awesome. That is insane to think about, and how many users do you actually have access to with that? And so, like most of you, I'm assuming, went to school at some point in time, and you got the job that you felt like was awesome, and then you maybe got the house, because that is the picture-perfect American dream, and we're all happy, and this is awesome. And that, I guess that's a really bad gift because it's kind of dark, but he's saying yes, because I accomplished all that, and I was so ready to take on the world after graduating. And I thought, Jesus, this is awesome. I have my degree, I have my house, I have all the things that I was supposed to do. Now I can go and kick some ass. And then came my first job. And I got a job at an engineering consulting firm out of just outside of Edmonton. And we were working down on a project down in Boston, just outside of Boston, on reactors for in the Hainan region. And so this is where the nuclear engineering part comes into play. And so when people think about nuclear engineering, they think about this, or they think about this, which is awesome because you would think about that. That's totally natural because you see this all the time. But for me, it was working on reactors for the Hainan region of China, and that was working 10 to 16 hours a day and hating my life and living out of a hotel. And by day 45, I really did not want to be there anymore. And so I felt like I was sold this falsified dream of go to school, get the job, get the house, and you're good, and everything is going to be perfect. But I was pissed. And so I decided to try again, though, because you just have to keep going, right? Like, you got to stumble fast and try new things, and maybe it was the wrong experience. And so when I was down in Virginia on a different project, it was like day 3 or 4. It wasn't very early on. We were supposed to be there for a few weeks. It was fine. When we got there, we were working from 6 in the morning until about 1 a.m., trying to get our clients working and doing all this stuff, and that is not an exaggeration, and it sucked. And I was so tired by day 3, and so I convinced my boss on day 3, like, let's go back to the hotel early at 6 p.m., because that's a normal working day, 6 to 6, right? That's a normal working day. And I got there, and I had 8 missed calls from my mom, and I thought, oh God, like, she would never call me, and I was in Virginia, so she could have just sent me an email or a text message if it was important. My grandfather passed away. And a lot of people will talk about these crazy existential moments, or they have their crisis and that kind of thing, but this man was very near and dear to my heart, and it broke me. It made me really question, like, what the hell am I doing? I was down in Boston, I hated my life. I was in Virginia, I hated the work that I was doing. Like, was this it? Was this what I was supposed to do for the next 50, 60 years? That's insane. That's so crazy. And so I left, and I thought, well, but this is supposed to work. And it doesn't. It didn't for me. Maybe it does for other people, but it didn't for me. And so I quit, and I left, and I thought, Jesus, how am I gonna fix this? I'm an engineer, like, I can go get another engineering job, but I didn't really want to do that again. And so I had to take a really hard look at myself in the mirror and say, well, then what do you want to do? But I didn't have any answers. And nobody else was going to tell me what it is that I had to do to get there or be happy or anything, because you define that on your own. And so I left and I went traveling, and I have celebrated my birthday out of the country since 2008, and it is fantastic. So I left and I went traveling for 4 months, and I went backpacking through the Middle East, and that's just what I like to do, is go backpacking by myself, and it's great because it puts you in your raw state as a human, and it forces you to be so open to new experiences that you would never actually have in your home area. And that's what I really love about traveling. It's not going and getting drunk in new places. It's seeing how other people live and how they kind of will move in between the day-to-day. But it was getting really close, and I was almost out of money, so I kind of had to figure something out. I was at this point where my bank account was not pretty, and so I flew home after 4 months, and that's what I did. But when I got back home to Edmonton, I still didn't feel like something was right. I felt like I was still missing something, and because I was in an environment that I had completely known and I'd grown up in, nothing was new to me. And so I didn't know how to work within the constraints that I had within my own hometown or my home city. And so this is one of my favorite quotes by Marissa Mayer. creativity loves constraints. And the reason why it loves constraints is because if you gave any creative in the room an unlimited amount of constraints and you just let them do whatever they wanted, they would never come up with anything. Because they would sit there and they would stew and stew and stew. And this is for any problem. This is an engineering problem. This is a design problem. This is anything. If you said, redesign this chair, you can do whatever you want, anything you want. They would sit there and they would feel paralyzed. And so I really had to force myself into this crazy little hole because I had to figure out how to get out. I had to figure out what the hell I was going to do with myself. And so I packed 2 bags, and on the side of this, I happened to meet a man, and I was either going to go to Vancouver or I was going to go to Toronto. And so I came to Toronto because one of the biggest tech industries in Canada is in Toronto. I didn't want to go to the States because it was a little bit too far, and so I packed 2 suitcases and I left. And I was really, really lucky because I was introduced to Sean Pucknell at FITC, and I said that around that same time in June, North by Northeast Interactive was happening. I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to meet new people, but they didn't have any volunteer positions left. And so then they asked me, like, well, do you want to MC? And I thought, well, I don't really speak in public very well yet, but I could probably do it, so sure, why not? I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea, I don't know anybody that's going to be there. Why not? I'll make an ass of myself, everybody will forget it, it won't even matter. And so one of the things that I learned was that, I keep on flipping through slides because I'm actually getting a little bit lost, but that's okay. Yes, well, I should probably look over here, but I don't want to do that because that would be weird. Anyway, so one of the things that happened with this was I was exposed to so many different things. And one of the rules that I made when I left Edmonton was that any meetup that I went to, I had to meet 3 new people, because spontaneous interaction creates these insane opportunities for people, and they're not open to it. And it's about creating that new environment for yourself and about pushing your boundaries. And so for me, success came from being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because to meet new people is incredibly uncomfortable. And I'm a little bit of an introvert. I'm probably 50-50, and so meeting new people is really hard. You wouldn't think that it is, but it's still really hard for me to just walk up to a group of people that I don't even know and say, hello, how are you? Because people in Toronto look at you like you're crazy when you do that. You say hello to somebody on the street and they think you're crazy. But you do that out west and people think, well, hey, they're just having a good day. They're just passing it along. It's not like that in Toronto. So I had to learn some pretty cool lessons in that sense. But also, when I got to Toronto, I looked for a job for 3 months. I expanded my network. I was meeting 3 to 4 people a day for 7 weeks, 5 days a week. I expanded my network like crazy, whether that was a 15-minute coffee, a half-an-hour meeting, or an hour-long meeting that turned into like a 3-hour-long or a 4-hour-long interview. But I still had no idea what I was going to do. So who the hell is going to give somebody that doesn't know what they want to do with their life a job? Because they can see that right through you. They see right through you if you don't know what you want to do. And so I felt like this again. I thought, damn, I'm doing this wrong. Like, something is not working. I'm clearly not doing this right. And so one of the things that I really, really love about Barbara was, like, this is one of my favorite quotes. Everything good in life happened on the heels of rejection, and so don't accept rejection. Just don't do it. And that was really hard for me to realize, that there was no rules, nobody was going to tell me what to do, and I thought there was a perfect solution. My engineering brain wanted the perfect solution that was going to solve all of the problems, and I was going to be super efficient and go from A to B, and it was just going to work. It was going to be awesome, but it didn't. And that's not how life works. And so I had to learn how to stop asking permission. I had to learn how to stop asking permission from my parents, from my friends that thought I was batshit crazy for moving across the country to do something that I didn't even know. And I had to stop asking permission from employers to do something that I wanted to learn how to do, because nobody's going to pay you to do something that you don't know how to do, except for the crazy people. So my first client, I was kind of tinkering with WordPress for a little while. I had a blog, like normal people do. They just have a blog, they set it up on WordPress.com, and I was learning about that kind of stuff. But I was trying to dig a little bit deeper, and at that point in time, I was kind of playing around with the CSS and the styling and changing colors and making it look kind of custom. I thought it was amazing that I could do that, right? I thought that was an insane skill, and now I build things from complete scratch, just from an image or a design that's created. And so this is over the span of a year that I've done that, and that's a pretty good feeling. But I still had to totally fake it because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was learning everything along the way. And anybody that tells you that they know exactly what they're doing at the CEO level, they are totally lying to you because they have no idea what they're doing. Everybody in leadership that I know is always making it up as they go. Small agencies, large agencies, every single problem is a brand new problem. You talk to big designers from like FI, and every single client is like a brand new problem that they've never solved before. And so you're still faking it. You just have a little bit more experience that you can apply to all of that. And so one of the hard lessons that I learned with new clients is do not use email for change management because this is what your inbox looks like. That was a really hard lesson to learn. My gut totally said no to this guy. He gave me a really bad feeling. He was some SEO marketer, some kind out of Markham. It sucked. The site's still live, but I'm not going to tell you what the URL is. And so, because I had met so many people, and I had built out my network over the past little while in Toronto, I stumbled upon Ladies Learning Code. And at that point in time, I was kind of reaching a plateau where I really wanted to dig in more, but I didn't want to keep sitting in my closet in the room that I was renting out at the time to try and figure out CSS. I thought, man, like there has to be something that's better. There has to be a better way to do this. And I still kind of want to be social, and I still have to meet people to get new clients. So I'm going to go to a Ladies Learning Code workshop, and this is going to be awesome. And that taught me a lot that day. That taught me that, once again, spontaneous interaction is the reason why I found front-end development. I didn't even know what front-end development was last year. And now I differentiate between a designer, a graphic designer, a UX designer, and a developer. And there's a whole other long list, and I thought all those people were one person. I was that guy that was like, oh, hey, you're a developer. Can you just design my logo too at the same time? No. I get angry at people, but I mean, this is why I discovered front-end development. And so I had no idea what I was doing at that point in time. And so HackerU was started in January of this past year. It was 9 weeks. It was expensive for me because I had no money. Because when I moved here, I had $400 in the bank. That was it. I had $400 and a giant credit card bill from traveling through the Middle East, because that's what you do when you're young. You're stupid and you charge everything. But I had met Heather Payne earlier, probably I think in like October, November, and this came up, and it was 9 weeks, and this is where the 9 weeks comes into play, and it completely changed my life. I will totally say that. For me, to go from being like a WordPress shitty tinkerer that was totally faking it to somebody that can build out a fully custom PSD to code in the browser, responsive, add a little bit of animation, like that's pretty amazing. The skill set that you can get from 9 weeks. You can't even get that from a post-secondary degree. And I probably paid about the same amount of money for 1 year post-secondary, but I was never gonna get the same skill set in 4 months, 8 months, as what I did in those 9 weeks. And so something really, really crazy started happening. And this is also another one of my favorite quotes. If you stumble fast, you will always be swept away by something great. And I really had to start listening to the small whispers that were happening. And this is cheesy, and it goes out to the universe, and it comes back to you. But I truly believe that, because something crazy started happening, and I graduated from HackerU with 7 job offers. And when I got here, nobody would give me a job. Nobody. And I turned them all down. That was the crazy part, because I was so hell-bent on working for myself. I wanted to do that. My manager, he has like a frown on his face right now, like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you take a job? But I really wanted to work for myself, and I had found a really cool company called MeetUp, design out of Victoria. I love their work. I just think it's phenomenal. And so I couldn't send the guy an email because I didn't actually know him. I didn't really know anybody that was connected with him. And the reason why I sent him a tweet in the first place was because one of the girls that was in my class in HackerU lives in Victoria. And I thought, oh my God, you have this insane opportunity to go work for this company. You should go do that. And so I tweeted them and I said, hey, we have some HackerU grads, specifically Jessica. She lives in Victoria. You guys should totally hire her because she's awesome. But she moved to Vienna or something crazy over in Europe, and she didn't want to be in Victoria because it's too cool for school. But I really love Victoria, and so the conversation kept on going, but that 140 characters led me to a yes, and they hopped me on a jet plane, and I went across to Victoria to start working on this project called Vessel. Have you guys ever seen that smart cup? No? Well, some of you have. Anyway, so I worked on that site, and it was one of the coolest projects that I had ever done. And I would have never imagined doing anything like that this time last year. Never. I would have never thought that was even possible. And so one of the things that I absolutely love about Twitter is that it totally removes the barriers that email places on people now, because if you send an email, it's probably one of 200 in your inbox, especially for people in leadership, at least every single day. Chances are you're not going to get a response unless they kind of know you, they've heard of you, or they actually have a reason to talk to you. And that sucks. But that's really how it is, because their time is demanded so much by email that why would they give this complete stranger any time in their inbox? And so 140 characters, it's this instantaneous response. It's totally brand new, and then the conversation starts. And for me, that's how it happened. But them saying yes made me totally feel like this. I just thought it was freaking amazing. It was great. This is one of my first yeses that I had. But that led into even more things. And so when I was in Victoria, I got an email from a recruiter from Apple in California, and I thought that it was a fake email. I thought it was completely fake. I was like, this is garbage. It's not going to happen. But it did, and it was real. And I got to 3 interviews, and I thought, damn, I can do this now. I'm going to do a little high kick, and it was going to be awesome. But this is how I felt. And amazing stuff just started happening. And I just kept on going with it. And I really started to pay attention to all of those really hard lessons that I was learning over the past year. And so for me, I really wanted to share some of those with you. And I'm sure that some of the engineers in the room have a lot more technical, crazy questions. And I promise you can ask me anything you want about engineering after this. I probably won't be able to answer it, but that's okay. So one of the things that I learned was that you really have to persevere through those tough moments. And that's one of the reasons that got me here, because I was told no a lot, and it sucked. And it hurt, it totally hurt my heart, but stop asking permission. If you want to go and learn how to do something, or you want to get paid to do something, just start doing it. Even if it's for yourself, or if it's for a crazy client. If there's an awesome project that you want to work on, if there's an insane animation you want to do, just go build it, because nobody's going to pay you to do it until you can show them that you can actually do it. And then something crazy will start happening, and you will just keep on tumbling into even better opportunities. And so this equation no longer applied to me personally. And I learned that, and that was a really hard lesson to learn, because I thought A plus B plus C is going to get me D, and I'm going to be happy, and this is going to be awesome. But that's not how it worked. And engineering was awesome for me, but I would pay for HackerU all over again based on the crazy amount of opportunities that it gave me in a very short time frame, and the ones that it's going to give me in the long term as well. And so the second thing that I learned was that spontaneous interaction is the reason why I learned about front-end development. And so for me and for you, that means go meet at least 3 people at every single event you go. I go to events by myself for that reason, because otherwise when you go to events with people, you're super comfortable in that surroundings, and you're not actually going to have or be forced to have conversations with other people. And the other thing that you should do is not ask them about work. What do you do? Nobody cares. Nobody, unless they're insanely passionate about what they do, they don't really want to talk about work. And so ask them what they're building on the side. What are you really excited about today? Or what are you really excited about? Or what have you done this past year that is amazing, that you feel like was great? And that starts a very different conversation. That creates a very different emotion in those people. And chances are you'll probably start working with them in about 3 months' time. They will come back. 6 months is usually my lead time where I have a conversation, and it always comes back around. It's kind of crazy. And one of the other things that I learned to really love, and this is what coding does for me, is strive for flow in your day-to-day work. I get completely lost in time when I'm coding, and I never thought that would be possible with work. Never, never, ever, ever. And my partner, he doesn't really get it because I stay all cooped up like this with my computer, and I'm looking at this crazy screen and it's dark and he needs to go to bed, but I just keep going because I love it and it feels so good. It gives me this feeling, this exact same feeling I get from adrenaline pumping down a cliff. I get this with coding, sitting at my desk. That's crazy that something could do that for you, but it's awesome. And so I wanted to leave you guys with a quote today because that's very cheesy and that's what everybody does now. But this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's something that I didn't think was actually possible or you could really use. But the thing that's really, really hard and really amazing is giving up on being perfect and working to become yourself. That's it. That's all I have for you guys. Hopefully that wasn't too long. Thank you. So, questions?
Do you think you were a bit more set up for HackerU because of your engineering background? Because you certainly would have had to take like some computer science courses or some programming courses.
I took a little bit of C++ when I was in school, and believe it or not, I actually did research for a couple years in Fortran, which is totally ancient. But that was the exposure to my to my CS. I actually almost failed my computer engineering course, believe it or not. Like, I walked away from there with the skin of my pants, and that was it. So it's kind of crazy that I like coding now because I completely hated it when I was in engineering. One more question?
Why did you choose front end rather than back end?
Why did I choose front end rather than back end? I love front end because it's like picking the perfect pin on Pinterest, and you get that little high. And for me, I get instantaneous feedback from my code if I have design, if I have live reload running. And that, for me, that is fantastic because I can see exactly what's happening. The back end, well, I just haven't dug deep enough into it yet. And I really like the front end. I like the crazy animations and the beautiful things that back end developers think is garbage coding, but I love it. Yeah.
Now that you've kind of carved out this new skill for yourself, I'm assuming it's filled you with a lot of confidence. Is there something else now that's next? As a new big skill to learn or a new big challenge now that you've kind of done this crazy turnaround in your life?
What's next? I honestly, I can't answer that question. 2 years ago, I was doing nuclear engineering. Like, I'm the wrong person to ask that question. But I really want to become like the JavaScript junkie. I want to learn JavaScript, and that is an insanely challenging language for me personally. But it's just something that I'm really interested in. So I'm just going to keep on going.
So you're currently working full-time as a front-end developer.
Yeah.
How does that compare to freelancing and kind of running your own business?
So I decided to take on, I'm going to repeat the question because I'm supposed to, I always forget. Sorry, Scott. How does freelancing and working for yourself versus working for somebody full-time differ? So for me, the biggest distinction between those two was when I was working as a freelancer full-time or by contract, I was also the HR manager, I was the business development person, I was attempting to be a really shitty designer, but a lot of the time I outsourced that with a few people that I thought were awesome. And for me, I was really struggling by just focusing on the code. And right now, I really want to focus on the code because in order for me to get better, I have to iterate through a lot of things. And so the other thing that I really missed was a team with people and being in that environment. And it leads back to my point about spontaneous interaction and that crazy stuff that happens. When you're surrounded in a team, you're not going to learn as much in a silo as what you do working with a team of people. And that's really what drew me to working with a team again. And I love my team at Normative. They are so incredibly talented and they are hilarious. And work is not the be all end all. And that's a very different thing too, right? I mean, it depends on where you work. For me, I wanted a balance at the same time, and it didn't necessarily have to be this hardcore type of coding environment, but one that was a little bit more relaxed, but really accepted you by tinkering with other projects. And so I love it. It's the perfect balance for me personally.
When you're freelancing, how much time are you spending looking for work versus how much time you're actually doing work?
Probably 50-50. Yeah, probably 50-50. I found, so my lead times were generally about 6 months. And there were some projects that were super quick and they were turned around. Like somebody called me last week and we were working on the project over the weekend and it was done by the end of the weekend. Like I've had projects like that, but most of the time, the ones that I was really excited about usually took about 6 months, where I would meet somebody and we would talk about coding and we would talk about websites, and then 6 months later they would call me back. From the point of actually meeting and having a conversation with somebody to the point of somebody handing me a paycheck, because I did not count on work unless the money was in the bank. So I always assumed that it wasn't going to be coming in. And so I just kept on like looking for more work, but it was about 50% of the time that I was looking for work versus actually coding.
In addition to like HackerU and doing projects, were there other resources you found good for learning?
So the best resources for me for learning were probably Treehouse. Was awesome. I thought it was great, but I don't like building things for no reason. So learning in that area didn't really fit with me, because if I'm going to build something, there has to be a reason for it. That's my like drunken elephant engineering brain talking to me and saying, no, like you really need to do this for a reason. So like for me to just make some random project for no reason, it doesn't really work. So I think that answers your question. That's probably my favorite, but I'm happy to give you way more resources if you want to chat afterwards. Sure. So I'm going to answer your second question first because it's shorter. How did I find the work between front-end development and engineering? In terms of like school, do you want to know about that for like learning for difficulties, or? Okay. Getting a job? Was that? So learning at HackerU was probably just as hard as my first year of engineering, which for me personally was insane. For the super smart people, it might not have been that hard. Most people don't know this about me, but I actually dropped out of engineering my first year after 2 months, and I went back the following year. And it was just something that I wasn't ready for personally, because I was super young and I moved to a giant city from a really small town in Alberta, and there was just way too many shock factors that I had at that point in time. But learning was probably just as hard. It was just as intense. I was working just as hard to get really awesome things. I was understanding the concepts maybe a little bit easier than what I did in engineering, but that's how my brain works. So maybe that kind of helped with it. Your first question, why nuclear engineering? So I fell into nuclear engineering. I actually studied materials engineering. And when I was deciding between engineering and something else, I was deciding between fashion and engineering. And those were like complete polar opposites. complete polar opposites, and that's crazy. But those were my interests. It was like, I'm a super math and science geek, but I kind of like this fashion creative thing. So front-end development kind of makes sense because it gives me a little bit of both. I get the pretty stuff, and I get the very intense kind of logic-driven animations that'll happen. So for me, it serves a lot of different purposes.
So when you're learning and you're looking for work, it's easy because you're hungry and you're always looking for stuff to work on in free time. Then once you get a 9-to-5 job, it kills that.
Oh.
Do you find you still have the motivation how to keep it up to just keep working on stuff in your own time?
I think the projects that I'm working on outside of work are really, really interesting. And that is the only reason why I keep doing it. Like if I had a shitty ass client that I didn't want to work with, I probably would be hating my life because I would have to crank out these. So I need to preface this. I do not work on side projects during the week because I'm too tired and I'm learning so much at work that my brain doesn't function. And so I'm not a moonlighter because I can't actually do it. I value my sleep very, very much. And if I had it my way, I would actually be I would be coding from 6 in the morning until noon. No email, no anything. I wouldn't be commuting. Like that would be, if I could code from 6 till noon and then go into the office, that would be my dream job. But I mean, you do what you can. And I'm still learning so much that working on side projects helps me kind of implement things that I'm learning during the week. There you go. No more questions? Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. This is good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Now you get to do your thing.
Cool. Well, thank you very, very much. Let's give another round of applause for Robyn. That was awesome. Cool. I want to once again thank everyone else for coming out tonight and just end off on the fact that we are hiring for developers, especially one of our things we're really trying to hire right now is a UX prototyper. So if you know how to code, do a little back end, do a front end, but also have some design chops, give us a call. And so achievers.com/careers. And lastly, if you want to reach out, our Twitter is AchieversTech, Facebook, achievers.com. And you can just email us at tech@achievers.com. And as from before, all the videos and slides from tonight will be up. So definitely reach out. We're more than happy to hear from you. So thank you very much for coming out, guys. And stick around and have a few more beers.